when everybody was looking for a home during Christmas where to go to, you couldn't go to Colorado. You couldn't go to Lake Tahoe because it sucked. You had all these other choices. Everybody came to Florida.
I'm not going to judge the safety of a... I can't use that as a statistics of safety. I can't. I don't care who chooses where to vacation. I care what your death rates are, what your vaccination rates are, what your hospitalization rates are.
Patrick Bet-David had Neil deGrasse Tyson on his podcast, the PBD Podcast, on the Value Timmy YouTube channel. And whenever Neil deGrasse Tyson was trying to criticize Florida, Republican ran Florida for, guess what, being Republican ran, that's where Patrick Bet-David lost it and just had to put Neil deGrasse Tyson, this woke idiot, this woke scientist, in his place where he belongs. We all know that things will get heated between someone that has some common sense, like Patrick Bet-David does, and someone who has zero of it, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, which is crazy to say because, you know, objectively, if you were to look at this with a bird's eye view and like you didn't know much about the intricacies of the situation, you would be like, well, obviously Neil deGrasse Tyson would be smarter than Patrick Bet-David. Obviously, he'd have more common sense than Patrick Bet-David because he's an actual scientist, right? He's he's won awards, he's been on television, all this stuff. But the reality is, Neil deGrasse Tyson's mind has been completely captured by the woke mind virus, and he's gone. There's no common sense left in that brain. It's just woke brain rot. That's it. And Patrick Bet-David had to put Neil deGrasse Tyson in his place. Let's get into this clip here where things get heated between Patrick Bet-David and Neil deGrasse Tyson here live on the PBD Podcast.
I love it. No problem. Right. Totally fine.
But that's an example.
But if you want to smoke cigarettes outside,
Neil,
you can.
And you can live on the beach unvaccinated. That's fine.
Neil, let me ask you this. So what state would you say was the most responsible during COVID?
State? I don't know. I never looked.
So if you're a stats guy. I have
no idea. Actually.
Okay, I'm a stats guy as well. I like stats, but I'm more financial. I'm not like, you know, but I understand what you're saying.
A lot of stats and finance.
I'm a baseball guy, so I like stats. I'm all about stats. I love baseball. So if we look at the stats, the media made Florida seem the most irresponsible state. That's what the media made it look. Okay,
we're in Florida right now. You guys do have kind of a bad reputation on a lot of stuff.
Okay, sure. So, and by the way, I've lived in California 24 years, 5 years in Texas, 2 years in Florida. Okay, just so you know my background.
That's right. Okay.
10 years in Iran, 2 years in Germany. That's kind of my background. A couple years in the military. But if we say, hey, if we look at the data, the most irresponsible state was Florida. You would have heard many times news telling you that. When I'd go to California and I would say, I'm in Florida, I'm like, oh my God, you're in Florida. Oh my, it's horrible. But you know what I realized? Here's what I realized. If the state of Florida is so bad, why did the NBA during Black Lives Matter host the playoffs in Florida?
In the bubble.
If Florida
I thought they created a bubble for themselves.
But why did they come here? They could have done it in Texas. Texas got plenty of places they could do it in. Why did they do it here?
I don't know.
But the point is, they felt safest.
I'm not going to use the NBA as a measure of what is
safe. They also did the Super Bowl here.
A lot of the Super Bowl was here. I'll give you another one. Pro-vaccine AOC for vacation. She came to Miami. People from New York and California were partying for Miami. During COVID, when everybody was looking for a home during Christmas where to go to, you couldn't go to Colorado. You couldn't go to Lake Tahoe because it sucked. You had all these other choices. Everybody came to Florida.
I'm not going to judge the safety of a... I can't use that as a statistics of safety. I can't. I don't care who chooses where to vacation. I care what your death rates are, what your vaccination rates are, what your hospitalization rates are. That would be an objective measure from state to state. What state are you most likely to die in from COVID? That's a statistic I would pay attention to. What state has the least hospital beds to accommodate those who are sick from COVID, even if they're not going to die from COVID? I would want to know that. I'm not going to base a decision on whether the NBA chose to put their bubble in the state.
Well, statistically, New York and California does not look good. Statistically, New York and California, and they're supposed to be the most responsible ones. Those two states didn't look good. All I'm saying is, from my end, in a space where I sit there and I listen to you and I learn, I say, oh my gosh, okay, I had no clue about that. That was brilliant. That's interesting. Let me go research. Let me go look at this. I'm a guy that likes debate of experts in two different sides and let them make the argument. And I'm mature enough to know the better salesman doesn't necessarily have the better argument.
Good. But let me just say that there's nothing I've said in the last half hour that is a debating point. All I'm telling you, well, you can debate whether you should still be able to work and put other workers at risk for not having vaccinated. You can debate that.
Yeah.
In the context of public health, That's a risk factor that we don't want to introduce to other people because of your decisions. That's a public health issue. It's been going on basically for 100 and something years since, you know, who's the woman who, there's some famous medical case.
It's funny how Patrick Bet-David listed off all these things because, you know, they don't have the statistics available. I don't know if we have them like at all available. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't have them, but because they didn't, you know, readily have these statistics available, Patrick Bet-David listed off all these different people, you know, AOC, all these people went to Florida, went to Miami for vacation during the lockdown time. Why do you think they did that? Why do you think these people who are clamoring for the lockdowns, clamoring for the jab mandates and all these things are going and fleeing to the exact place that said, no, we're not doing that? Probably because, number one, life is a whole lot better in places that don't do stuff like that. And number two, they never really believed in that stuff anyway. They're just told to believe that stuff and to spread that stuff and to propagate those ideas by their overlords because it makes us easier to control. And obviously Neil deGrasse Tyson would never ever say anything like that. But the fact that he was not able and willing to make any concessions, to Patrick Bet-David's point, it just proves my point that he's completely lost to the woke mind virus, man. He's completely gone. And it's sad because I used to watch Neil deGrasse Tyson like as a kid. I used to watch his TV shows and him like, I forgot what it's called, but it's like called like Exploring the Cosmos or something like that. And that used to like fascinate me so much, man. And now I can't watch anything like that anymore. I can't watch anything Neil deGrasse Tyson is involved in because I just look at him as just a complete idiot. His brain is completely gone. You know, they always say separate the art from the artist. It's kind of impossible to do that now. Like, because people have so many opinions and their opinions are so readily available and they're so out there, I can't separate the art from the artist anymore. It's not possible, man. I used to be a huge Star Wars fan. Obviously, Star Wars is just run into the ground now, and I don't even, like, I'm not going to watch anything that Star Wars comes out with ever, because it's just, it's all garbage, right? I'm not even mad about it anymore. It's just, it just sucks. Like, it is what it is. We can stop crying about it now and just accept the fact that it sucks. But even watching old Star Wars movies, when I see Mark Hamill's face, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's the guy with extreme TDS. Like, that's that woke idiot. It sucks. Everything's ruined now. Everything's woke. And I can't separate the art from the artist anymore. The same thing goes with Neil deGrasse Tyson. I can't take anything that he says seriously anymore because he's an absolute idiot. He's a lunatic. Idiot is not even a strong enough word. He's a lunatic.
A person who spread, what's it? What is that case?
Recently?
No, 100 years ago.
Oh.
It created a whole wave of sanitation rules and things for public health sake.
I'm not familiar.
But anyway, the point is, I want to make sure you know you can focus on the 1,500 people who died after the vaccine.
Mary Mallon? You're talking about the history of typhoid fever?
Yeah, Typhoid Mary. Yes, thank you.
Typhoid Mary. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know her last name.
Yeah.
I thought typhoid was her first name.
Typhoid Mary.
Okay. Wait. So it's simply a matter of, if you're saying you don't want to be in the 2,000, whatever the number is, who died after the vaccine from heart failure at the peak of your physical career, not totally necessarily factoring in all the other abuses that went on over that time that may have contributed to it. Instead, you want to take the risk of COVID and not be one of the 20 million people who would have died and didn't, right? So I just want you to have the statistics in front of you. And it seems to me most people would, in most cases, choose the path that reduces their chance of death.
But by the way, I don't disagree.
That's why I'm not debating. I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there.
But this part of what you're saying, I'm 100% with you. But this is...
It's not a matter of being with me. It's just, are you with the decision-making of what is a rational statistical analysis?
But this position is not an arrogant position. This position is kind of like when you're sitting there and you tell the doctor, so doc, what do I do? Do I get the surgery? Like, we have one of my good friends right now is getting a brain surgery in the next couple of weeks. She's afraid. Now, she believes in God, so faith is kind of calming her down.
Look, I absolutely love Patrick Bet-David. I hate that he has a long-ass story to tell for every single point that he makes. We get the point that you're trying to make, bro. You don't need to tell the story about your friend with the brain surgery. We get it, okay? You should have the choice, okay? We get it. The problem with what Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying here is that even what he's saying that Patrick Bet-David is somewhat agreeing with doesn't make any sense, because he's saying that most humans would take the choice where you have a lower chance of death. Maybe, look, maybe there's a small percentage change in the chance of death from that virus, from that certain virus, right? But from what we know now, there's a much higher chance of death from injecting foreign things into your body that haven't been properly tested from a million different other things, okay, that might not be that virus. Maybe there is a small improvement in the chances of not dying from the virus if you get it. But it's not worth it at all because of the things that you get that aren't, I have to watch my words, but that aren't related to the virus, right? That you get that you would have never gotten if you didn't take that thing. So even what Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying right here, that Patrick Bet-David is somewhat agreeing with and conceding the point on, that's not even true. That has no legs. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this Patrick Bet-David versus Neil deGrasse Tyson situation here on the PBD Podcast and the Valuetainment YouTube channel.